Girivardhar Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamanaptira Vanapchadi Jamanatira Vanapchadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamanatira Vanapchadi Jamanatira Vanapchadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hadi Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivedikacharya Astatarasatasi Simaris Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaura Premanandi. So our host or hostess, could you just share your thought process or vision for going through Chaitanya Charitamrita? I mean, I can take a guess, but I'd like to hear from either or both of you. What was the thought process behind our host and hostess?
First was from our CNJ temple. Even CNJ is there, we call.
So this is a CNJ class.
We have every weekend Chaitanya Charitamrita reading.
Okay.
So Simeshwar Prabhu.
So you just happen to be the host for this. It's not like something that you're doing on your own. Okay. So what's the vision behind it?
The vision is we just started from the CNJ temple to one is weekday Bhagavad Gita reading and weekend Chaitanya Charita. Weekdays all 5 days is Bhagavad Gita reading. So now they are in 6th chapter where we are doing summary on Monday in the same time. So now this is first chapter reading.
Okay.
Smeshwar Prabhu, you want to add? I'm not regular in, I'm not correct. Smeshwar Prabhu,
Thank you so much, Maharaj. You're so fortunate that, Maharaj, you are to speak on Chaitanya Charitamrita. The inspiration, we started Chaitanya Charitamrita class due to this lockdown. We started on the Zoom section. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, we came up to the 14 rules. So far, we started a few months back only. So that part of, just...
You started 3 months back, but you're only in Adi Lila verse 13.
Correct.
You're really moving along at a snail pace.
Yes.
So the vision is just to fulfill, the purpose is just nothing more than just read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Someone got inspired, a group of someone's got inspired, let's read Chaitanya, yeah, let's read Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's it?
Just go in detail about, I think many times we hear about, we heard about Chaitanya Charitamrita, but there is no real platform. Discuss or go deep into the, subject matter. So many senior devotees take a class on every Saturday.
Okay. Now, could you just answer this question? There's several verses with no purport.
Right.
And am I supposed to just cover one verse with no purport, or am I supposed to read until I get inspired to say something?
Yes, one verse. If there is no purport, we go to the next and say something, and then go to the next one and say
Something.
Something, and then purport is there, and then we talk a little more.
Okay.
So,
I just want to be in sync with what y'all want. You know? I'm the servant of the servant of the servant. Trying
we
to
are
be.
so grateful, Maharaj. We are so grateful.
Yeah, and I'm the servant of the servant. So I'm serving the grateful.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So the text that I was asked to start from is Adi Lila, text 13, and so far, at least in this verse and the previous verse, it's speaking about Advaita Charya. And in this little section, there's two. I'm going to read a few verses, but there's Advaita Charya as part of the Panchatattva, and then the principal deities of Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana, or Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath. Now that's the subject. The structure of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, it's like sutra-like little codes that are making proclamations and glorifications and setting the standard of where everything is going, and then everything starts to unfold from there. Some key, very essential verses describing Lord Chaitanya and Balaram and the Gora Tattva, basically. And then comes Panchatattva. So we're going to hear, in text 13, Advaita Acharya is being glorified as he was in the previous verse, as being an incarnation of Mahavishnu, and whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Supreme Lord, the resting place of the material cause, or the cause of the material elements. There's some very elevated technical terminology or concepts being waived without going into detail about them. Text 13. Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, that's Advaita, he is called Advaita. Because he is non-different from the Supreme Lord Hari, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. You put them together, he's Advaita Acharya. Non-different from Hari, who propagates the cult of devotion. He is called Advaita Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. So the phrase in Sanskrit is, or Bengali, Bhaktavatara. Bhakta Avatara. Bhakta Avatara, the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him. Now, when we recite our Mangalacharana prayers, or standard prayers, the very next verse is one of those. In fact, multiple of the next verses are from our Mangalacharana prayers, which means they're like really important. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam, Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam, Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam, Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. The standard prayer that we, may not think too much about the meaning of it, other than its glorification of the Panchatattva. But the Panchatattva has, our normal Panchatattva mantra is a little different than this one. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda. The Sanskrit is different, but the members of the Panchatattva are the same. So let's go through them slowly, one by one. So Pancha Tattva. Tattva means the truths in relation to, comprehending the 5 transcendental subject matters. Pancha Tattva Atmakam. Krishnam, unto Lord Krishna. So the first one is Bhakta Rupa, the form of a devotee, and later the form of the devotee or a devotee. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Swa Rupakam, that's Lord Nityananda, or the expansion of a devotee, or the expansion of Lord Chaitanya. So Panchatattvamakam Krishnam, Bhakta Rupa, Lord Chaitanya, Swarupakam, Lord Nityananda, Bhaktavataram. Hey, we just heard, that's Advaita Acharya. So it's not using them by name, it's using them by the position of the tattvas of the 5. Bhakta Rupa, Swarupakam, Bhaktavataram, Bhaktakyam. Bhaktakyam is known as a devotee. And who's so that's Srivas Thakur, and Bhakta Shaktikam, who supplies energy to the devotee. The energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who supplies energy to the devotee. That's Gadadhar. So let's do it again. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam, Panchatattva Atmakam, comprehending the 5 transcendental subject matters. unto Krishna, comprehending the 5 transcendental subject matters unto Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, Bhakta Rupa. Lord Nityananda, Swa Rupakam. Advaita Acharya, Bhaktavataram. Narada Muni, who is the incarnation of a devotee, or Srivas, a devotee. Bhaktakyam, known as a devotee, and Bhakta Shaktikam. So that's the Pancha Tattva. Then another one of our Mangalacharana prayers is Linux 3. Madan Mohan, Govindaji, and Gopinath. So those of you that know the verse, you can say it with me. Jayatam surato pangor mama mandamater gati matsarvasva padam bojo radha madana mohano. So we know what the last line means. Radha madana mohano. All glories to Su Ratau, most merciful, or attached in conjugal love. Jayatam Surato Pangor. Pangor, we're going to hear, and there's a purport coming up. Pangor. In the word for word, it means one who is lame. Prabhupada gives it slightly. Pango refers to one who cannot move independently by his own strength. And Madana Mate is one who is less intelligent because he is too absorbed in materialistic activities. Mama Manda Mater Gati, the foolish. Mama Manda, of me, of I, who am foolish. Mama, who don't have the intelligence to know what to do. Mat Sarvasva, my everything. Padambojo, whose lotus feet. Radha Madana Mohano. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madan Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised. Nice. Pangor and Manda Mater, or Manda Mati. Ill-advised, foolish, unintelligent. I can't move on my own and I'm unintelligent. How unfortunate I am. These two, Madan Mohan, they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Mangalacharana prayers. Next. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prestadibhi Sevyamano Smarami. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavan. Singha Asana Sto, on a throne. Ratna Agara, Ratna's jewels, and a temple of jewels. So in a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath a desire tree, Kalpa Drumadaha, Divyad Vrindaranya, Divyad Vrinda Aranya, Aranya's forest. Vrinda Aranya is a forest of Tulsis, or Vrinda Devi, and Divyad is shining. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath the desire tree, Shri Shri Radha Srila Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, Prestadibhi, Preshta Adibhi, Sevyamano, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. One more. Shriman rasa rasa rambi Vangshivata tatastitaha Karshan Venusvanayar Gopir Gopinatra Shriyestunaha. Shri Man, most beautiful. Rasa, of the rasa dance. Rasa Rambi, of the mellow. Arambi, the initiator. So Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the rasa dance. Vangshivata, Tata, on the shore, Stitaha, standing, who stands on the shore in Vangshivat. The shore, the river Jamuna passes nearby, very close by. In fact, it was the little history of how the Gopinath deity was found. Is one sadhu was doing some work, digging something, and in the course of digging something by the river Jamuna, the Gopinath deity was in the mud or in the earth. They uncovered the deity and began worshiping the deity, the Gopinath deity, right near the Vangshivat tree, known as one of the celebrated places of Krishna's rasa dance. So, Karshan means to attract. Venusvanayar Gopir, by the sounds of his Venu, Venusvanayar. Krishna called the gopis, but from Vangshivat tree, and they came and they performed rasa dance. Gopinatha Shriyestunaha. Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the rasa dance, stands on the shore in Vangshivat and attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sound of a celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Shri Chaitanya and Nityananda, glory to Advaita Chandra, all glory to the devotees of Shri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Then comes the verse with the long purport. Etina Takura Godiyake Karya Chena Atmasat Etinera Charana Vandhon Tine Mora Nata. These three deities of Vrindavan, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or the followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the Lords, plural, of my heart. Purport. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita offers his respectful obeisances unto the three deities of Vrindavan, named Sri Madan Mohan, Sri Radha Govindadev, and Sri Radha Gopinath. These three deities are the life and soul of the Bengali Vaishnavas, or Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who have a natural aptitude for residing in Vrindavan. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who follow strictly in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, worship the capital D divinity by chanting transcendental sounds meant to develop a sense of one's transcendental relationship with the Supreme Lord, a reciprocation of mellows, or rasas, of mutual affection, and ultimately the achievement of the desired success in loving service. These three deities are worshipped in three different stages of one's development. The followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu scrupulously follow these principles of approach. Paragraph. Gaudiya Vaishnavas perceive the ultimate objective in Vedic hymns composed of 18 transcendental letters that adore Krishna as Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopi Vallabha. So that's, when it says something like this, the 18 letters or 18 transcendental syllables, that's a Gayatri mantra that they don't say in full what the Gayatri mantra is. And so those that are knowledgeable in Gayatri mantras, they know what it is. So that it's just gesturing because you don't say the whole mantra in circumstances like this. Madan Mohan is he who charms Cupid, the god of love. Govinda is he who pleases the senses of the cows, the senses and the cows. And Gopi Vallabha is the transcendental lover of the gopis. Krishna himself is called Madan Mohan, Govinda, Gopi Vallabha, and countless other names as he plays in his different pastimes with his devotees. Paragraph. The three deities, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopi Jana Vallabha, have very specific qualities. Worship of Madan Mohan is on the platform of re-establishing our forgotten relationship with the personality of Godhead. In the material world, we are presently in utter ignorance of our eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. Pango refers to one who cannot move independently by his own strength, and Mada Mate is one who is less intelligent because he is too absorbed in materialistic activities. It is best for such persons not to aspire for success in fruitive activities or mental speculation, but instead simply surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The perfection of life is simply to surrender to the Supreme. In the beginning of our spiritual life, we must therefore worship Madan Mohan so that he may attract us and nullify our attachment for material sense gratification. This relationship with Madan Mohan is necessary for neophyte devotees. When one wishes to render service to the Lord with strong attachment, one worships Govinda on the platform of transcendental service. Govinda is the reservoir of all pleasures. When, by the grace of Krishna and the devotees, one reaches perfection in devotional service, he can appreciate Krishna as Gopijana Vallabha, the pleasure deity of the damsels of Vraja. Paragraph. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this mode of devotional service in three stages, and therefore these worshipable deities were installed in Vrindavan by different Goswamis. They are very dear to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas there, who visit the temples at least once a day. Besides the temples of these three deities, many other temples have been established in Vrindavan, such as the temple of Radha Damodar of Jiva Goswami, the temple of Shyamasundar of Shyamananda Goswami, the temple of Gokulananda of Lokanath Goswami. Exactly, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And the temple of but the deities of Lokanath are also there. And the temple of Radharaman of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. There are 7 principal temples over 400 years old that are the most important of the 5,000 temples now existing in Vrindavan. 5,000 plus. That was because this was some years ago. Paragraph. Gaudiya indicates the part of India between the southern side of the Himalayan mountains and the northern part of the Vindhya hills, which is called Arya Aryavrata, or the land of the Aryans. This portion of India is divided into 5 parts, or provinces, or Pancha Goda Desha, Saraswata, Kashmir and Punjab, Kanya Kubja, Uttar Pradesh, including the modern city of Lucknow, Madhya Goda, or Madhya Pradesh, Maithila, Bihar and part of Bengal, and Utkala, part of Bengal and the whole of Orissa, Utkala. Bengal is sometimes called Godadesh, partly because it forms a portion of Maithila, and partly because the capital of the Hindu king, Raj Lakshman Sen, was known as Goda, capital. This old capital later came to be known as Godapura, and gradually Mayapura. Yeah. Paragraph. The devotees of Orissa are called Odiyas. The devotees of Bengal are called Godiyas. And the devotees of southern India are known as Dravida devotees. As there are 5 provinces in Aryavarta. So, Dakshinatya, southern India, is also divided into 5 provinces, which are called Pancha Dravida. The 4 Vaishnava Acharyas, who are the great authorities of the 4 Vaishnava disciplic successions, as well as Sripad Shankaracharya of the Mayavad school, appeared in the Pancha Dravida provinces. Among the 4 Vaishnava Acharyas, who are all accepted by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Sri Ramanujacharya appeared in the southern part of Andhra Pradesh at Mahabhutapuri. Sri Madhva Acharya appeared at Pajakam, near Vimanagiri, in the district of Mangalore. Sri Vishnu Swami appeared at Pandya, and Sri Nimbarka appeared at Mungera Patana in the extreme south. Paragraph, last paragraph. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the chain of disciplic succession from Madhvacharya, but the Vaishnavas in his line do not accept the Tattvavadis, who also claim to belong to the Madhva Sampradaya. To distinguish themselves clearly from the Tattvavadi branch of Madhva's descendants, the Vaishnavas in Bengal prefer to call themselves Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Sri Madhvacharya is also known as Sri Gauda Purnananda, and therefore the name Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is quite suitable for the disciplic succession of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, accepted initiation in the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Invocations. Exactly as it says in the very next verse, it's to, by invoking the names and remembering these deity forms of the Lord and the Panchatattva members of Lord Chaitanya and his different expansions, it's to invoke auspiciousness, and it creates the right atmosphere for the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj, to proceed giving the, essentially, the life and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That's what Chaitanya Charitamrita is, the life and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So the truths about the Lord's forms, that's what's called tattva. And the pastimes is lila. And the two go well together, or one will not properly understand the lila without tattva. So tattva comes first. And then lila, it makes the tattva come to life, or gives it sweetness and joy. As you know, most of you know, certainly our listening audience, the GBC strategic planning team spent 20 days or whatever it was preceding Lord Chaitanya's appearance to have speakers be interviewed or speak on the topic of Chaitanya Charitamrita and its significance, with the idea that next year, I listened to all of them because they're very, very wonderful. And Vaisheshika Prabhu explained he was told, don't promote Chaitanya Charitamrita distribution right now because we don't have enough copies in print. And you'll deplete our limited supply too quickly, so you'll be disappointed. So they're planning to have a big Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon, so maybe that's a nice cause for you all here in Central New Jersey, ISKCON, to plan a big book distribution marathon for Chaitanya Charitamrita by diving into it. It's something like what happened with distributing sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. I mean, this is not on the topic of the text itself, but because there was this, Bhadra Purnima Ra, and so many sets of the Bhagavatams all over the world were distributed, then what? Well, then what became, let's have Bhagavatam reading groups. And all over I don't know how much it goes on in different places, but some places it's really a fantastic way to engage people, even people that don't know much, to start to dive into Krishna Bhakti. Because the Bhagavatam is wonderful, and just reading it is wonderful. So my guess is what you're starting here is going to start in a number of other places, or maybe you just got a head start on everybody else, and you'll be well down the road with having your community here in Central New Jersey all primed for set distribution of Chaitanya Charitamritas, and the price is very reasonable, and how much people are going to stand it, I don't know, but it's wonderful. The Leela part is wonderful, but it's very profound. Certainly one of the things that Chaitanya Charitamrita accomplishes is it gives a really good picture of Lord Chaitanya's life. And in addition to the pastimes and the events of his life, it gives very profound presentation in summary way of our Goswami's teachings, which are expanding the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, but in a way that no other biography of Lord Chaitanya's life has done during his time or since. Very, very comprehensive, because the life of Krishnadas Kaviraj was after the 6 Goswamis. I mean, during his life, Jiva and Raghunath Das were both present, and the others had their elder. Gopal Bhatta was somewhere in between. But so he had learned these teachings from them, and now he's putting them in a form, specifically in Bengali, that people that don't know Sanskrit could come to understand and read and hear and so forth. So it's quite comprehensive, just like this. This is, of course, this is invocation verses, and so it's setting the stage. It's not going into details yet, but just calling the names of these three presiding deities, and that this one purport that we read, they are to help the reader of Chaitanya Charitamrita understand the progression of bhakti. And it's not exactly like beginning, intermediate, and advanced, but it's just like the very language that one who is pangor, one who is unable to move independently, and one whose intelligence is bereft to be able to understand anything. I'm falling at the feet of Madan Mohan to receive the benefit of their mercy, so that I can see things that I can't see, and I can experience things that otherwise I can't experience by their mercy. So it's the beginning stages of bhakti. And as those beginning stages of bhakti become more developed, then becoming established in one's relationship. And Govindaji. Wow. Courier service. Huh?
Radhayatra, we have a book reader.
Is this from Rath Yatra?
No, we are preparing for this.
Oh.
Just packing.
Oh.
So he is making use of the devotees here now. Back.
Oh. He's got a labor force. Would devotees like to do that? Service for Lord Jagannath. I don't know how all of you view the explanation of Panchatattva. I can recall the understanding of Panchatattva when I first heard it is, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, and then Krishna himself expands in so many Krishnas, but when Krishna expands himself in so many Krishnas, he does it in Dwaraka as husbands of the queens, or in the rasa dance, performing rasa dance, or however he wants to expand himself to be multiple Krishnas. But when Lord Chaitanya is coming to deliver the Sankirtan movement, he has people that come and assist him. Sangopangashta Parshadam, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayayar Yajanti Sameda said that important verse from the Bhagavatam. So he comes with his associates, and he comes with his dear friends, and his expansions. So this is this verse that we read. It's the 5 features. So the devotee, the expansion of the devotee, the form of a devotee, the energy of a devotee, and the devotee. It's Lord Chaitanya expanding himself. Not like he can expand himself in 4 more forms, but these are categories, and they're persons, and they assist him in his Sankirtan mission in different ways. Towards the end of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, there's a nice little set of verses where Lord Chaitanya became an annual event where Lord Chaitanya sent Jagatananda Pandit to go to Navadvip, carry message about Lord Chaitanya to Mother Sachi, pacify the hearts and the minds of those who in Navadvip that were feeling separation from Lord Chaitanya, and tell them about what Lord Chaitanya had done for the past year, and his teachings and activities, and fill their hearts with feeling satisfied, and then bring messages from them back to Lord Chaitanya. So one year Jagatananda went. He spent some time, and just before leaving, he went to see Mother Sachi to take her blessings to return, and went to Advaita Charya to take his blessings to return, because this is about Advaita Charya, the first 2 verses. Bhakta Avataram, Bhakta Avatar. So he, Advaita Charya, gave a written message for Lord Chaitanya, and it was in a riddle form. There's a certain Sanskrit term for riddles. Forget the term. And no one could understand it, including Jagatananda Pandit, who was very intelligent. But immediately Lord Chaitanya understood it. And the message goes, this is not verbatim, but something like this, 3 or 4 parts. Tell that madman that everyone here has become a madman. Tell that madman that there's no interest in rice in the marketplace anymore. And so he'll have to find some other place, something like this, to sell his wares. Something. There's more funny parts to it too. And when Jagatananda read the message, he laughed. And it was like he didn't understand it at all. That was his response. What kind of a message is this? And Lord Chaitanya received the message, and he smiled mildly and just said, he has ordered. And the commentary says from that point on, Lord Chaitanya's, his internal absorption in the love, intensity of love of Radha and separation from Krishna, it started expanding and knew no limits. And the little riddle or puzzle or little saying was to say, you came to distribute the Sankirtan movement, and everyone here has accepted it. We become mad with love for Krishna by hearing, and there's no need for distributing it further because there's no buyers. Everyone already has. So it's time to end your pastimes. Now, it was Advaita that called him, and now it's the note in this puzzling way. It's, you may return now. Now, in Krishna's pastimes, the demigods came and said it directly. In Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, the Advaita Acharya said it in a riddle. But Lord Chaitanya understood, and then the ecstasies just went through the roof. But, the foundation for that is here. The form of a devotee, Bhaktarupa Svarupakam, the expansion of that form of a devotee, Bhakta Avataram, an avatar of the devotee and the energy of devotion. I mean, the whole system is set up for distributing bhakti. And they did it in coordination with and under the direction of Lord Chaitanya. Now, how does this work? It's not like they're robots or something, and they're just doing something. Lord Chaitanya pushed buttons, and they went this way and that way, and said this and did that. They have their own. They have their own personality. They have their own volition, their will, but they're also impelled by love, and so they move according to their own volition, and they move by love, and their volition is love for Lord Chaitanya, and so based upon his inspiration, they do. Advaitacharya does what Advaitacharya does, and Lord Nityananda does what Lord Nityananda does. You know, and then later, here's just because it's about Advaitacharya, a very interesting characteristic of Advaitacharya was he was in age like his father. And in the whole of Navadvip, before Lord Chaitanya appeared, he was the most exalted, learned Vaishnav in all of Navadvip. And he was very aristocratic and so forth. Everyone looked up to him. But Advaita, Lord Chaitanya, by age and this and that, always was showing respect to Advaitacharya, and Advaitacharya didn't like it because he saw Lord Chaitanya as the personality of Godhead. So he tried in different ways, and he succeeded in having Lord Chaitanya take a superior position. There's pastimes. He taught Yoga Vasishta, a kind of impersonalism, to make Lord Chaitanya angry. Lord Chaitanya came and raised his hand and was ready to smack him. And then Advaitacharya jumped up and for joy. Anyway, different pastimes were arranged. With volition, with their own independent will, with their own particular kind of love, although they're expansions of Lord Chaitanya. There is not just energies or robots. When Lord Chaitanya wanted to show Advaita others, he requested Advaitacharya to come. Advaitacharya was engaged in deity worship. And while engaged in deity worship, he knew, because he's the Lord, Lord Chaitanya is going to call me, and someone came. And so immediately he requested his wife, gather all paraphernalia for puja, because he wanted to worship his feet. But he told the messenger, it was one of the Srivas Pandit's brothers, tell him he'll have to find me. Tell Lord Chaitanya he'll have to find me. So he went with his wife and his puja paraphernalia to the home of Nandanacharya. It's a celebrated place where people would hide out. And then Lord Chaitanya had to find them, and he found them. That's where they met Lord Nityananda, the house of Nandanacharya. It's like a celebrated hideout place. And the home of Nandanacharya, by the way, is if you're walking out the front gate of our temple in Mayapur, you walk left towards the river where the boats come. It's the very first temple. And on the wall they have these three scenes of where, so the scene with Lord Nityananda, the scene with Advaitacharya is Ramai was the name of Srivas Pandit's brother. He said, you'll have to find him. And Lord Chaitanya could understand. So Lord Chaitanya went to where he was and brought him. And so Advaitacharya said, you've shown your divinity. You're omniscient. Now I want to worship you. And Lord Chaitanya let him worship him. And he did the whole thing. Abhishek of his feet and lit incense, and argya, and the whole, 9 yards. Did all the puja. And Advaitacharya was so happy because he liked the position of seeing Lord Chaitanya up and him down. Although Lord Chaitanya was always doing the opposite, he did like. And in a rasa sense or in a love sense. So they're independent lords, but they work in concert because that was a happiness for Lord Chaitanya. Advaitacharya's unhappiness that Lord Chaitanya, a young, youngster compared to him, was treating him with respect. Lord Chaitanya liked it. He didn't like that. It's just part of their relationship. So then Lord Chaitanya submitted because his love was so strong and let him worship him. And Advaitacharya is very happy. And Advaitacharya had a significant role in the expanding of bhakti, the expanding of the chanting of the holy name, even before Lord Chaitanya came with his interactions with Haridas Thakur. But so even before he came, the incarnation of the Lord was there to assist him in his pastimes. And the pastime, overall, besides his own tasting of love of God, was the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. So he was very effective and very active and very powerful. Then this whole section of the three lords. So this is speaking in general about the followers of Lord Chaitanya. They know what these three deities are. They respect and worship these three deities. It doesn't mean, Sanatana Goswami was the eldest amongst the 6 Goswamis, and he was the worshipper of Madan Mohan, and it doesn't mean that he was a beginner. Far from it. Read his writings, he wasn't a beginner. It's not like he was a beginner, he worshipped Madan Mohan and he became elevated. He was taking that role on behalf of Lord Chaitanya to worship Madan Mohan. And Madan Mohan wanted to be worshipped by him. He was very determined to be worshipped by Sanatana Goswami, long story. And Govindaji connecting with Rupa Goswami. And Shyamananda Pandit connecting with Gopinath. Another very wonderful description. Very wonderful description. So very rich history, very much connected with our lives, as you here in central New Jersey spend the next however long it's going to take you to finish Chaitanya Charitamrita, maybe up until the book distribution marathon happens, and then you'll read it again or something like that. Who knows? But you'll be more well acquainted. It's not like, it's very, besides its many volumes, it's very rich in deep understandings of Lord Chaitanya's life, Lord Chaitanya's teaching, the expansion of those teachings in the form of the Goswamis. And Krishnadas Kaviraj had it all within his hand and just very lucidly, beautifully presented it. Okay. Let's see if there's some discussion. We've been sitting here now for almost an hour, 55 minutes. See if there's some comments or questions from anybody.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was so beautiful. It was so wonderful. So nicely explained Panchatattva aspects. Also, you touched upon the deities of Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. Radha Madan Mohanji, Radha Govindji, and Radha Gopinathji. I was trying to understand, Maharaj, how, when we say Sambandha, when we worship Radha Madan Mohanji, we develop the relationship of Sambandha. And then Radha Govindaji is the process of Abhidheya. Then we get the result of Gopinath, like the gopis. But I still try to understand, many devotees worship in our, we start with the Sri Gauranitai, we worship with Jagannath, we worship other deities, Radha Shyama Sundarji, we worship. Many Radha Govinda, Radha Damodarji, Radha Gokulanandaji. How do we see when it says that Sambandha Videya Prayojana and the beginners should worship Radha Madan Mohanji? Then how about when we worship other deities and what happens to those who worship other deities like Radha Shyam Sundarji? How do we take this, or how it works? How we can take this up in compared to other worship?
A few things. It's not like there's this bucket and then there's that bucket and then there's the other bucket, and Prabhu, you're a new devotee, so you got to stay in that first bucket for quite some time now. It's not like that. It's not like that. As you become matured in bhakti, maturing takes time, just like for a child to grow. It takes time. So bhakti, it takes time to grow. And as bhakti grows, then these refinements start to become understood more, little by little. And it's more a mood than it is a particular deity. That is to say, Krishna can take any form at all. It's in his power to take any form at all. And you or me or any of us as beginners of worshipers, we worship according to the vidhis. And as those worship according to vidhis grow, then the understanding of how we're to approach the deity becomes a little more matured, and we approach in this mood, that mood, and the other mood. Now, your question is, how does it work? My answer is, there's a reciprocation from Krishna according to our regard for him, and it's not even so much the name of the deity, etc. It's the stage of bhakti that we're in and how we regard the worship that we're doing. Even if you're worshiping Gauranitai, the worship of Gauranitai has everything to do with coming to the stage of love for Krishna. And coming to the stage of love for Krishna has different presiding deities that represent moods. And I would say for most worshipers in their temple or in their home, making these kinds of categorical divisions of worship is not so important, rather that it happens organically or naturally, or the reciprocation with Krishna matures in a very natural way, and the mood is more this, and the mood is more that, and the mood is more the other, in the course of the progression and unfolding of our Krishna bhakti, while you're worshiping a particular deity. Say the same thing in a different way. According to the same thing in a different way is, according to the regard that one has for Krishna, Krishna manifests that form according to one's regard for him. How did Lordship, for example, how did Lord Chaitanya see Jagannath? Now, we're not on the platform of Lord Chaitanya, but how did Lord Chaitanya see Jagannath? He saw Krishna holding a flute. It is said, I've read that Tulsi, the author of Tulsi Ramayana, when he saw Lord Jagannath, he saw Ramachandra. So, we're not likely to see, as they saw, for us to see, but my point is, according to the regard that one has for the Supreme Lord, he manifests himself accordingly. There are scriptural verses that speak like that. So as our consciousness becomes more refined, look, this is the postgraduate study. Now, in our Mangalacharna prayers, we honor these three deities. But for that matter, not only when we sing our Mangalacharna prayers, when we circumambulate Tulsi, what are we saying? We're in a prayer requesting Tulsi Devi to be kind upon us and bestow upon us forms of gopis. And that our heart becomes oriented towards that love that the gopis have for Krishna. Please bestow that upon us. How elevated is that? And how much are the devotees understanding what it is? Or how are their hearts oriented to what it's saying? But there's reciprocation according to your Krishna bhakti. So that's it's not so precise, kind of all over the place answer to your question, but it's Krishna reciprocates according to one's regard for him. And as your consciousness becomes more refined, when you get to the postgraduate level of your Krishna bhakti and what's being described in Chaitanya Charitamrita is something you can relate to. It's not just like in outer space somewhere with your high-powered telescopes. You're trying to see what it is out there. When your consciousness becomes more elevated, it becomes more relatable with these different names and the roles that they play in your one's unfolding of Krishna bhakti. Accordingly, Krishna reciprocates.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I see a hand in the room. Should we take your online people or go back and forth, or what would you like? Our moderator.
We can take.
Just going to take the microphone around.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for this sweet class. I wanted to understand why Radha Madan Mohan is called Sambandha deity. Does it mean he reveals our Sambandha with Krishna?
He helps us to establish that relationship. And the establishing of the relationship has two parts. It's the removal of the covering and the awakening of that natural relationship.
So it's okay to pray to him like
Oh,
even...
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
For both. The removal of the coverings and the affinity for illusion, and restoring the real sense of what our relationship with Krishna is.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In one of the translations we were reading, the Pangum word is there.
Could you speak right into the microphone, because there's noise in the kitchen and it's louder than your voice.
One of the translations,
Yes.
it said Pangum. We read the translation as foolish, and then added to it was ill-advised. I just want to understand.
Well, foolish people are ill-advised. Ill-advised means I'm accepting something that's not, even close to what's right as what's right. That's a foolish person. Foolish person are easily fooled. Ill-advised persons are easily misled. It's quite similar. It's not one-to-one, but quite similar.
Is it in reference to the mind which is guiding us in a wrong way, or?
Well, and in the end, add the intelligence. The power of discrimination is not functioning properly, and therefore the mind is not functioning properly. It has everything to do with the modes of nature and the bewildering effect of the modes of nature on both the intelligence and the mind. Misguided, misdirected.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Neglecting that Pangum word where we see Chaitanya Charitamrita, I think in Antilila beginning, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is submitting that I'm old, my support is a devotees, where he's using these two verses where it's mentioned, I think Pangum Avrutte Srutim Mukam Karoti Vachalam. So it's a little bit different way than the verse we use. Two verses is saying, and Avalambanam is using also beautiful verses.
Name.
Yeah, I think until 1 and 2. Chapter.
Even in that Mukam Karoti Vachala, Langu Pangayate Girim Yat Kripa Vandeham Shri Gurum Dinataranam, that word is same as this, right? Pangu? Okay. Thank you.
Do we have anything on for our local people? The Central New Jersey folks? No? Anybody else in the room? We have a few people in the room. May have some thoughts to share. Okay. Looks like we're done. Okay, go and start packing for Rath Yatra. Srila Prabhupada ki? Jai.
Yeah.